Welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show, where wealth means a lot more than just building a second stream of income with real estate. Listen and learn how 90% of the millionaires in the world use real estate to create a life that most people only dream about. A life that includes good health, family, romance, travel, charity, and all the other parts of a balanced life. Now, here's your host, real estate investor and consultant, Steve Davis.
Good afternoon and welcome to the show. I am your host, Steve Davis, where as always we're talking about leading a higher quality of life by building a second stream of income, reducing our dependence on corporations, reducing our dependence on jobs for the income. The average person has been taught that a job or a corporation, hey, that's how you make money. How do you make money? You get a job. And that's the only thing they're taught. And that's high school and really college. So what we do at Real Wealth Academy is we teach people a second way to create income, either through buying businesses or primarily we focus on real estate. It could be groups of single-family homes, a little apartment complex, investing passively in large apartment complexes. Whatever generates income that is supplemental to their earned income. And we're going to talk about fear and desire today because, and I'm rounding off all these numbers to make it easy to understand and also to protect the privacy of the individual. But I had a lady who's in her 40s and she's got about, through frugal living, I mean, the stories, to me it's a sad story. Well, let me just say it. By driving cheap used cars, by not going out to dinner a lot, by not traveling much, she's able to save up, close to $500,000 in her mid-40s, which is a pretty good feat. Except for what? She missed out on life. What do you mean you drive around old piece of crap cars? What do you mean you can't travel? What about romance? You're not allowed to go out to dinner? You're cutting coupons? What in the world gives you the idea that that's the right way to live? To be cheap for yourself, which of course leads to you being cheap with other people. It's a terrible way to live. To look back on, if you're 45, and since 25, so for 20 plus years, you've cheaped yourself out to save up 500 grand. Can you see how that is actually a greed decision? It's greed. You're more interested in money than you are living your life. But why do people do it? They don't know any other way. Her only concept for making money was her job. Well, suddenly she's gotten a burst of courage, and she is committed to buying my advanced program and investing passively in apartment complexes. Now, guess where this courage came from? She got fired. Finally, at age 45 or whatever, mid-40s, she suddenly realized that the highest risk position that you can possibly be in is to only have one source of income, and that be from a job. Look at my story. What got me courageous? What got me over my fears and got me to take action? They came in and cut my pay by 20 grand a year. It woke me up. Now, there's multiple reasons why I'm telling this story, but one of them is this. Don't be stupid like me. Don't do like she did and wait for a financial catastrophe to wake you up. See, I know some really smart people, way smarter than me. They never had a financial catastrophe and they went out and built a second stream of income before they had a financial catastrophe. But see, there's another thing staring her in the face. If she's 45, what's 2 times 45? 90. She's halfway there. Halfway there. And she's nowhere near retirement. Sorry, I know those of you going, oh, $500,000 is a lot of money. You live 20 years in retirement. $500,000 divided by 20 years is about, I think, $25,000 a year. Nobody's retiring on $25,000 a year. $500,000 is not enough to retire. So she gets this burst of courage because she got fired. That woke her up. Because she's reached 45, that woke her up. Midlife wakes a lot of people up. I'm suggesting that you be smarter than that. Don't wait for midlife. Don't wait for a financial catastrophe. Do it now. But what kept her from doing it is what we're talking about today. And what's keeping you from doing it is the same thing. It's fear. You're afraid. You're afraid to take the chance. You're afraid to invest. What if something goes wrong? What if the market changes? What if we have another COVID event? And you live your life paralyzed by the fear of the unknown. Well, it's amazing. A pay cut or getting fired gets you past those fears really quick, because you realize suddenly there is no option. You either have a second stream of income, or you're constantly a victim of every recession, COVID event, recession. Did I say recession? Yeah, recession. What's the other? Depression. That's the word I was looking for. Downturn, whatever you want to call it. Do you want to be a victim of that for the rest of your life? Now, you may say no, but then I have to ask the next question. What are you doing about it? Nothing. So really, what you're actually saying, because actions speak louder than words, or lack of action speaks louder than words, you're actually saying, yeah, pretty much. If we have another COVID event, I'll be screwed just like I was this time. If we have another recession, I'll be screwed just like I was during the last recession. If we have a depression, oh my God, I'm going to jump out of a window like a bunch of people did during the depression. That's what you're saying by not taking action. But what I want to, with all the negativity I've just laid out there, let me be very encouraging. You know what it takes to change? Do you know what it takes to change? We'll talk about that when we come back from the break. It's actually very simple, and you're in 100% control of it. 100%. All right, this is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Thanks for listening. Real estate accounts for more millionaires in America than any other investment vehicle. This second stream of income can truly change your life. More time for travel and romance, more time for family and fitness, more time for whatever you want to do with your life. To find out how to build this second stream of income, attend our free 2-hour introductory workshop on real estate investing. To reserve a seat, visit GetRealWealth.com and click on the free workshop button at the top of the page. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. We're talking about fear and people not taking action. And before I go into the solution that I offered you, I want to share one other story that has to do with when I was a wholesaler. I had joined a real estate investor group, and I'd cultivated a group of about 30 to 40 buyers. I knew exactly what they wanted, and then I went out there, hustled, marketed, and found the deals that they told me they wanted. Now, I'm talking about someone looks me in the eye and goes, I want a house that's $20,000 below market. I want a house that produces $400 a month cash flow. That's what I'm looking for. So I went out and found that. Do you know I had to call 10 of them to get one of them to do it? 9 people out of 10 who said exactly what they wanted. I brought it to them, and they couldn't take action. Why do you think that was? Was it because they don't like money? No, I don't think so. Was it because they don't want to build wealth? That's it. They don't have any interest. No, I don't think that's it either. I know it's they don't like passive income. No, that's not it either, is it? Why would 9 out of 10 turn down the exact deal that they said they wanted? Fear. Something in them told them, ooh, if I put up $20,000 and buy this house, what if I lose that $20,000? What if something goes wrong? What if we get a recession? What if prices drop in the neighborhood? What if the neighborhood goes down in value? What if the neighborhood turns into a bad neighborhood? What if the schools aren't as good as I thought they were? Every one of those is complete BS and has nothing to do with buying a piece of real estate for investment purposes. But they, you see, those excuses are hiding the real reason, which is fear. They have all these fears about why they can't do it, why it won't work or might not work, so they take no action. And the dangerous thing about fears, and we're going to call a fear a belief, so I'll use those two terms interchangeably. A fear or a belief. In other words, if you believe rent properties are hard to manage, you believe that they consume a bunch of time, you believe that tenants call you late at night, all of which are BS, if you know what you're doing. It's all fear, and I've just indicated that every one of those fears is false. So it leads to this question: does a fear or belief have to be true to be debilitating, to stop you in your tracks? And the answer is, of course, no. A false belief is just as powerful as a real belief if you believe it. If you believe it, it acts on you as if it was true. I had this belief. When I got my pay cut, I was working 60, 70 hours a week, and I was almost lost my wife. I did not. But I remember going, man, I'm working so much. She ought to leave me. I mean, I'm not even there to romance her, to tell her how much I love her. I'm never around. So when I got into real estate, I was afraid of rental property because I had been told that rental property consumed a bunch of time. So I had this fear, and what it did was it kept me wholesaling and flipping for a long period of time, 3 years. And one day I was talking to a guy who had 120 houses, and he let me know that he vacations out of the country 2 weeks a month. 2 weeks a month. What do you think happened to my belief that real estate consumes a bunch of time? What happened to it? It was blown out of the water. Gone. My belief that rent property consumed a bunch of my time was instantly wiped out. Within a month, I had my first rental property. But for 3 years, the fear, the belief that I might lose my wife if I bought a bunch of rental property kept me from building any passive income and wealth for myself. Does it make sense when I say that that was a false belief? But it didn't matter. I believed it. So it acted on me and my life as if it was true. The question is now, here's the solution I offered you. It's a very simple solution, very hard to implement. It's this: overcome your stinking fears. That's the solution. See, I bring this up in our introductory course. Did you know that if you have a fear, any fear about real estate investing, that is an unnatural fear? It's almost ridiculously stupid. Because when you drove to work today, or you drove to Walmart, or you drove anywhere, what is on every street corner that you drove by? Rental property. Every strip shopping center, every convenience store, every tall building, short building, Walmart, Home Depot. Guess what they are? Rental property. If rental property was so difficult and all your fears about rental property were true, why is it on every street corner? See, then here we go on another subject, but I better address this. Do you know that failures always talk more than successful people? They talk way more. And here's the simple reason why. Failures want to tell you their excuses to make their ego feel better. Now, they know they screwed up, but they want you to think they didn't. That's ego. Ego cares more about what other people think than what you think. So, does it not make sense when people fail at something? Like, let's say somebody buys 3 rent houses and runs them into the ground and loses all 3 of them to foreclosure. He's going to talk about it constantly. Oh, the market changed. Tenants are a problem. Maintenance was unbelievable. They're going to make all these excuses. How many of them are going to walk up to you and go, man, I screwed that up. I am an idiot. I didn't even take a course on real estate investing. I just thought, it's not rocket science. I'm just going to do it by myself. I'll figure it out as I go. Woo, that was a mistake. I got killed, man. I lost all 3 of them to foreclosures because I couldn't handle tenants. I didn't know how to do maintenance right. I overpaid for the properties. Is that what they're going to say? They're not going to say that, are they? None of that. They're going to hit you with the excuses, the BS excuses. If that's the only person you talk to about real estate investing, can you see why you might be a little bit afraid of real estate investing? Because losers talk more than winners. Now, there's exceptions to that rule, the braggadocious jerk, but that's why successful people don't talk a lot, because it comes across as what? Bragging. They don't talk much. I'm lucky. I'm on the air. I get to brag. It'd be pretty boring if I came on the air and didn't brag a little bit about what I've done. But do you think when I go out to dinner I talk like this? I do not say a word about any of my success, any of my achievements, period. So, since the failures talk so much, their information gets disseminated probably 100 times faster than successful information gets disseminated, because the successful people can't talk because it comes across as bragging. Then there's one other reason successful people can't talk. They got nobody to talk to. Because the principles of success are so different from what the average person is doing that when you tell them or you talk to them about, they're like a deer in headlights. It's like talking to a wall. They can't understand anything, so you eventually give up talking. You go, nobody understands me anyway. Why would a guy with 100 units join a real estate investor club? I'll tell you why. He said, because real estate investing is lonely. I want to be around like and kind-minded people. I want to be around people that understand what I'm doing. And I want to be able to communicate intelligently with other successful people. All right, we'll talk more about this when we come back from the break. Phone lines are open. If you've got a question or comment about this, or maybe you need a little help addressing a specific fear, give me a call at 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV, or email me at asksteve@getrealwealth.com. Thanks for listening. Are you tired of losing money in every down market? Did you know that real estate makes money in both the up and down markets? In fact, we make more money in the down market. Hi, this is Steve Davis, host of the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Yes, we are praying for a down market, and you should know why. To find out why, attend our free 2-hour introductory workshop. To reserve a seat, visit GetRealWealth.com and click on the free workshop button at the top of the page. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. We're talking about fear, and if I've got time, I'm going to touch on how fear controls your desires. And if your desires are low, in other words, your only goal is to have a job and live paycheck to paycheck, and you're okay with that, it's because your expectations for life are low. You've got very low desires. But from consulting, I have learned that when a person has low expectations, it's almost always tied to a group of fears. Fear of loss is a big one. Fear of failure is huge, literally huge. I don't know why I never had that particular one. But I will tell you a funny one I had. You know, I was afraid that now listen to this chain of fears. I was afraid that if I goofed up at real estate investing, I might not be able to make my home payment, and I might get foreclosed on, and all my neighbors would think I was an idiot. Now think about that for a second. Is that not the most egotistical, stupid thing in the world? To give a rat's butt what your neighbor thinks? But I was paralyzed. I was scared to death, worrying about what my neighbors would think. See, everybody's got them. And you have to figure out ways to overcome them. For me, it was read, study, human achievement, and I eventually figured out what I was doing. Because as soon as I realized how egotistical that was, it was a very short time I got over it. Because I realized, why do I care what these people think? They don't pay my bills. I don't get any romance from these people. They're not doing anything for me. Why do I care? Pure ego. So people are afraid of failure. Some people are afraid of success. This one shocked me. They're afraid that if they do well, they'll have to keep doing well. What? But I swear to you, there's some people that think that way. They're afraid that if they push themselves to achieve a big goal, they won't be able to maintain that level of push for long periods of time. I see this all the time. People who that actually happen to. They go out, buy 10 houses, all in a 2-year period, 3-year period, and then boom, you meet them 5 years later, 10 years later, they're still at 10 houses. They stopped. They gave up. So it does happen to some people. But you can't not live your life because you're afraid of failure. You can't not live your life because you're afraid of success. And you can't not live your life because you're afraid, like what your neighbors would think. Hilarious. Try to find out what those fears are. The best way to do it is to get a coach. You don't have to get a coach that can look at you and see. Think of it like meeting somebody for it's what you're afraid to figure out other people. Very difficult to figure out. To produce a show, and sometimes when people tell you do something, you're going, really? I do that? Isn't that true? You can't recognize what you're goofing up on, but you can recognize what other people are goofing up on. That's why I get a lot of control of this. But one of my mental strategies was to put down other people, make myself feel better. And I finally came up with this question. Well, if I'm a person, they probably doing this. And I wonder what they see in me that I don't. So kind of cut way back in the guy. Realize that it's me too. I'm goofing in areas, and I don't even recognize it. You can't see the forest for the trees, I think. Yeah, can't see the forest for the trees. Got to be careful. That's why coach be so valuable. Like when I was talking to that lady with the $500,000, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "You're afraid. You're scared to death." And she sort of argued, but it was kind of like a weak argument. And then all of a sudden she went, "Yeah, I am. I'm scared. What if I lose my $500,000? And there it was. As if there's not risk in everything that people do. So for some reason, people think that putting your money in the bank at 1% interest, 2% interest, there's no risk in that. You're right. You're guaranteed to fail. There's very little risk in leaving your money in the bank. You're going to fail. 95% of Americans fail to retire by age 65. So if you sit there and allow these fears to control you, you'll be paralyzed for the rest of your life. And again, I know this is a sales pitch for getting a coach, but it doesn't have to be me, but it's got to be someone as a rule. There's very few Gary Vaynerchuks, there's very few Tony Robbins, there's very few Jim Rohns that figure it out on their own. And even those guys admit they didn't figure it out on their own. They read book after book. I think Tony Robbins read something like 100 books in 1 year when he was 19. 100 books in 1 year. What is that, 4 a month? No, that's like 8 a month. That's crazy. But he did it. So I guess you could do it that way too. I just don't know how many of you can read 100 books in 1 year. But every one of you can get a coach, somebody to sit down with you, analyze your life, look at your goals, and then tell you what you need to change to be able to achieve those goals. So how do I address fear? The first thing that I do is I use Zig Ziglar's point that fear is false evidence appearing real when it's something someone else has done successfully. In other words, if you're afraid of jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, that's not false evidence appearing real. There's evidence, a lot of it, that doesn't work. But if you're afraid of investing in real estate, that's unnatural. Where would you get this fear when on every street corner there's rental real estate? It doesn't make any sense, does it? But people have these fears. So the way I addressed it was I started questioning all of my fears, and I started looking for contrary evidence. And luckily, through reading, through being members of multiple real estate investor groups, through taking boot camps, weekend classes, and things like that, I eventually found the solution to every single one of my fears. One of my big sales pitches for my weekend class is that I will show them how to eliminate every fear that they have about real estate investing. Every one of them. So, get out there. Step one, line out your fears. This can be painful, but write them down. What's going to happen in step one is you're going to write down, say, 12 major fears. Did you know that just by writing them down, you're going to read them and go, that's BS? And you're going to eliminate 3 or 4 of them right there without even going to the next step? Because certain things, when you say them out loud, you're like, you ever said something and then somebody goes, did you just say that out loud? Because it was so stupid. Same thing when you write it down. Only you'll be the one going, did I just write that down? Step 2. Get around people who have done what you're afraid of successfully. This goes to a friend of mine who was deathly afraid of jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. She was scared of heights, didn't believe she could do it. So she went down to Clear Lake and hung out. The first day she went there, she hung out with a bunch of, I guess, what would they be called, parachutists, and watched people jump, land safely, watched one guy jump, break his leg, watched 20 people jump, land safely. The very next day, you know what she did? She jumped out of an airplane. So that method works very effectively. All right, we'll talk more after the break. This is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. You can call me at 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-KSEV. You're listening to AM 700, the voice of Texas. Thanks for listening. Do you dream of a better life for you and your family? Do you want more time with your family? Would you like to travel more? Would you like to be less dependent on a job for your income? The solution is simple. Build a second stream of income. We can show you how. We are offering a free 2-hour introductory workshop on how to use real estate to build a second stream of income for you and your family. To reserve a seat, visit GetRealWealth.com and click on the free workshop button at the top of the page. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Remember, you can always find us online at GetRealWealth.com. If you're interested in checking out our coaching programs, click on the free course in the upper right-hand corner. We offer about an hour and 15-minute long sample class that explains how our coaching works and how we teach people to build a second stream of income to lead a more balanced life. So check that out at getrealwealth.com. I'll be teaching next Thursday evening and next Saturday, I believe. But you can get the dates at getrealwealth.com. Okay, so we're finishing up these thoughts about fear and how it dictates what we desire out of life. And I'm talking now about this concept that, let me give you a very damaging concept. Learn from other people's mistakes. Now, when I say that, most people go, well, that's smart. What are you talking about, damaging? I thought that was smart. I've been taught since I was a kid, learn from other people's mistakes. There's a catch to that. Think about this. If you go out and learn every single thing that doesn't work, every single thing, does that guarantee that you know what does work? It does not. You know everything that doesn't work, give you that. But that doesn't mean you know what works. See, a wise person learns from other people's successes. Like my friend, when she went out and hung out with successful people who had parachuted, some of them hundreds of times, before she parachuted. That's how to overcome fear. You find people who are doing what you're afraid of doing and simply imitate them. You know, I must say that 1,000,000 times on this radio show. Find successful people and imitate them. It's that simple. So here's the secret to overcoming fear. Educate yourself out of it. Get so much knowledge that that fear just becomes almost a stupid excuse in your brain. I don't know if you guys saw this. Leonardo DiCaprio, I think it was The Wolf of Wall Street, he talks about, did you know the only thing between you and your dreams is the BS excuses you give yourself for why you can't do it? It's the only thing between you and your dreams. The BS excuses that you give yourself as to why you can't do it. You got to educate that out of you. It could be books, it can be CDs, audio, boot camps, workshops. Educate, educate, educate. Because were you born with those limiting beliefs? You were not. When you were a kid, you believed you could do anything. But over time, you heard the failures talk over and over again. And you heard very few successful people talk. So you've been conditioned by society and the way our society works to believe you can't do it. Only one person can stop that, and it's you. So get out there, read, study, attend workshops, meet new people. You know, Tremendous Jones says it, I say it 1,000,000 times, who you are next year and 5 years from now will be the books you read and the new people you meet. If you don't meet new people, if you don't read, then you're going to stagnate. You're going to be the same person a year from now or the same person 5 years from now that you are today. And then my argument is you're actually dumber in 5 years. Because does your memory get better or worse as you get older? It gets worse. So if you're not reading and you're not meeting new people, you're not stagnating. You're going downhill. Only one way to coast. Downhill. This is brutal. I'm 55. Do you know most 55-year-olds are dumber than my 27-year-old kid? Dumb as rocks by comparison. They don't understand passive income. They don't understand corporate dependency. They don't understand multiple streams of income. They don't even know. First off, they've never even heard the word passive income, let alone understand it. Dumb as rocks. And we wonder why 95% of Americans fail to retire, because they quit learning after high school or college. And high school or college doesn't teach you how to retire, does it? I don't remember one mention of how to become wealthy in any courses I took in college or any classes I took in high school. Do you? I remember when I asked Lieutenant Purdy, my counselor, I go, yeah, when do I get into the, I was taking Chem 101, useless, biology, useless. When do I get to take the classes on how to be rich? He literally laughed in my face. He goes, there's no classes here on how to be rich. I thought that's what college was. Why am I spending all this money if I'm not going to learn how to be rich? Boy, was I stupid. But a lot of people think that college is there to make you wealthy. It's not. It's to get you a better paying job, and that's about it. That's about it. All right, I've preached enough on this. Feel free to email me if you have questions on this. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com. Asksteve@getrealwealth.com. Let's go take a couple of emails. There's Bank of America. That is not for me. Okay, this first question from a Kevin is, saw Robert Martinez last night, want to know how to invest with him. Well, you have to be a member of Real Wealth Academy, and you have to be in our commercial residential mastery program. I can't tell, you're scheduled for the weekend class. I will explain all this Saturday and Sunday. So just get to the weekend class, and I'll show you exactly how you can do it. You must have over $60,000 to do it. If you got 100 or more or whatever, then no problem. But you have to have a minimum of $60,000 to be able to invest with Robert Martinez. Okay, next question is from a Susan. This one is just a basic question about a tenant who hasn't paid. Oh no, has paid everything. This is just a nice note. All of her tenants have paid on time since the COVID event. You're right about if you choose the right people, you screen properly, you'll have no problems with your tenants. Well, I agree with you, but I do know some people who did have problems even though they're good screeners and good property managers. I'm not saying you're lucky. I think you're doing a fantastic job, but there's a little bit of luck to it if you've collected all of your rent during the COVID experience. But congratulations, well done. Okay, phone lines are open, 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-KSEV. Or email me, and my email's open to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV, or asksteve@getrealwealth.com. Okay, see if I got time for one more. No, that one's a little personal. I guess I can answer it. Yeah, okay. I'll leave out the personal part, but let's talk about this fourplex you want to buy and live in one side. That can be a good idea, and it can be a terrible idea. If you're in a neighborhood where you're comfortable, maybe you were raised there, I've got no objection to it. But my past experience is that most people, when they buy duplexes and fourplexes, they buy them in the cheaper neighborhoods, and then when they move in, it's a different lifestyle than they're used to. And they become very happy with it, disillusioned with it in a very short period of time. Now, the reason this individual wants to buy the fourplex is because he's got a VA loan and he can get it for zero down. So he's getting 4 units for zero down. You have to live there a year, I believe. I'm not sure on the VA, but you'll have to live there an entire year before you can move out. So before you do that, you make sure this is a neighborhood that you're comfortable in, a property that you're going to be happy in, because you're going to be there a while. And the VA may be longer than that. I'm not sure. And then the last question, yes. Okay, yes and no. He goes on to ask questions about the difference between single family and duplexes, fourplexes, and triplex. Do I prefer single family? Yes and no. Your situation may be a little different. All right, thanks everybody for listening. I'll answer this guy's email after the show. Take care.
This has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Please remember that this show is for entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as legal, tax, or investing advice. Always get a professional opinion before making any investment decision. To find out about the mentoring and consulting at Real Wealth Academy, visit GetRealWealth.com and attend one of our free introductory workshops on real estate investing. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your day.